questions and drafts with teachers. Those teachers share feedback, criticism, and encouragement with their students. And on it goes. In fact, if there's no sharing happening, there's no education happening. Education is sharing, period. In the past, the only way for teachers to share with students outside their classrooms was to capture their knowledge and skills in physical artifacts like books. Unfortunately, for every additional person you hope to reach this way, you have to print another copy of the book and ship it somewhere around the world. It would be a terrifically expensive enterprise to try to reach even a tiny fraction of the world's learners this way. But the internet changes the equation. Instead of printing and shipping millions of physical books, a single digital resource like an electronic book can be copied and downloaded an infinite number of times at essentially no cost. The internet makes copying and distributing free. That means we can share on a scale unimagined in all of human history, which means we can educate like never before. Except that we can't. Well, not legally anyway. You see, long before the internet was a gleam in an engineer's eye, copyright law began regulating the way we make and distribute copies of creative works like educational resources. Thus, the internet was born with a genetic defect that unmade its incredible ability to enable free copying and distributing. What the internet enabled, copyright already forbid. And this is precisely why open education is so important. Creators and authors of textbooks, research articles, and other educational materials can place an open license, like a Creative Commons license, on their works. The Creative Commons license tells everyone, hey, I'm giving you permission to reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute this material to everyone around the world. When a creator or author applies an open license to their educational materials, we call the result an Open Educational Resource, or OER. OER are so critically important because they unlock the full technological power of the internet. Everything the internet enables, OER allows. And with open educational resources, for the first time in history, mankind has the potential to truly democratize access to education. And that is why open education matters.
For the longest time, human societies evolved very slowly. But since not so long ago, our pace of change has been increasing exponentially, ever faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and a lot faster. This constant evolution is only possible through the production and assimilation of knowledge, and a system transmitting it from generation to generation. The most efficient system we have come up with so far is formal education, a process whose pinnacle of achievement is a degree from a top university. The education given at these institutions opens a huge window of opportunities, as students learn from the highest qualified professors and acquire the most cutting-edge knowledge available. But the system as it is cannot deliver this knowledge to everyone. It is by nature exclusive. Now, imagine that this were to change. How would our world be if everyone could benefit from the opportunities offered by studying at these institutions? Well, this is already happening. Some of the best universities in the US are openly sharing their courses online. And this is just part of a trend. The trend of open educational resources. OERs are revolutionary technologies of knowledge delivery that use the internet to share and spread educational content, making high-quality education available for each motivated person to access for free. Opening access to top university courses is just one of the many things OERs can do. They can also serve as the best high school tutor, guiding you through thousands of topics with interactive exercises. They make up what may be the biggest textbook library in the world and provide the best tailored way to improve and broaden your professional skills at your own pace. OERs are creating a new system of education, one which is better adapted to respond to our highly dynamic economy. Equal access to knowledge means equal opportunities in life. And in a world with equal opportunities, it all depends on you. Now that's the meaning of freedom.
To To build sustainable, strong, and resilient societies, we need to be able to access and share knowledge openly. Open educational resources allow us to do so. Open educational resources, OER, are teaching, learning, and research materials in any medium, digital or otherwise, that reside in the public domain or have been released under an open license that permits no-cost access, use, adaptation, and redistribution by others. An open license respects the intellectual property rights of the copyright owner. It provides permissions granting the public the rights to access, reuse, repurpose, adapt, and redistribute educational materials. Open educational resources support quality education that is equitable, inclusive, open, and participatory. Open educational resources are central for the development of inclusive knowledge societies and to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, especially to reach SDG 4, SDG 5, SDG 9, SDG 10, SDG 16, and SDG 17. To support universal access to information and knowledge and to transform economies and societies, it is important to innovate. To foster innovation, one of the major challenges is to create the conditions for access to and use of quality knowledge. Because open educational resources are free to access, reuse, repurpose, adapt, and to redistribute, they can reduce the cost for development of educational materials, be adapted easily to different learning contexts, and help to develop gender-sensitive materials and alternative and accessible formats for learners with special needs. Governmental and institutional investments can be enhanced for socio-economic growth by accessing a variety of innovative pedagogical options. UNESCO member states adopted by consensus a recommendation on open educational resources. This recommendation called for governments, educational institutions, civil society, and other groups working with OER to take actions in 5 areas. First, building capacity of stakeholders to create, access, reuse, adapt, and redistribute open educational resources. Developing a supportive policy at national and institutional levels. Encouraging effective, inclusive, and equitable access to quality open educational resources. Nurturing the creation of sustainability models for open educational resources. And promoting and reinforcing international cooperation. By involving decision-makers, institutional stakeholders, including teachers and other stakeholders, we can build capacity to create, access, reuse, adapt, and redistribute open educational resources. Put in place and support existing supportive policies for open educational resources. Support the development of accessible, culturally and linguistically relevant open educational resources to meet the socio-economic needs of societies. And encourage the sustainable mainstreaming of open educational resources into lifelong learning systems. Open educational resources have a huge potential to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. By leveraging information and communications technology, we build inclusive, resilient societies. Open educational resources are central for the development of inclusive knowledge societies and to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, especially to reach SDG 4, SDG 5, SDG 9, SDG 10, SDG 16, and SDG 17. To support universal access to information and knowledge and to transform economies and societies, it is
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all participants in this special event exploring the potential of open educational resources in Indonesia, Germany, and Austria. Or in Bahasa Indonesia, menjelajahi potensi sumber pembelajaran terbuka di Indonesia, Jerman, dan Austria. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Hugo Indratno, an educational technology integrationist for Mentari Intercultural School. It is a great opportunity for all of you, for all of us actually, to learn together this afternoon from our speakers later on. It is a blessing for all of us because some of us in Indonesia are still doing their fasting. This is the fasting month for many Muslims, families, friends in Indonesia. Before we begin, let me read our agenda for this afternoon. We will start our event with announcement from the Adijita Infographic Design Contest. Then I will introduce all the panelists. Afterward, I will let the panelists start their presentations. Each panelist will present for around 15 minutes. So don't worry, all participants, there will be a question and answer session after the last panelist present his or her presentation. I suggest to all participants right now to prepare a pencil or a pen and a paper or your device to take notes, yeah? And of course, to take your questions. I know that this might be recording. There is a recording, but better if you really pay attention and put your questions, right? Then after the questions and answer session, I will hand over the event to Siamolek to deliver some announcements related to this event. So the last one, we will have a closing at the end of our event. So in case you forget, my name is Hugo Indratno, okay? Because I'm talking too much. So I have a question actually. How can you all come and enjoy this afternoon webinar? Exploring the potential of open educational resources in Indonesia, Germany, and Austria. So I would like to thank to the Goethe Institute Jakarta, Creative Commons Indonesia, and the Southeast Asian Minister of Education Organization, SIAMEO, and the Southeast Asian Minister of Education Organization, Regional Open Learning Center, SIAMOLEC. They organized this webinar for all of us. So thank you one more time. I also want to add that this webinar has a simultaneous interpretation of Bahasa Indonesia. So you don't need to worry if later on the presentation all in English, you still can have the what do you call, kind of like translation, interpretation, so you can enjoy this webinar. And also, if you are going to have questions, right? Make sure, don't worry, if your questions later on in Bahasa Indonesia, please do not hesitate to bring them up because we will try to interpret it for you. And also for this event, the committee provides certificates of attendance for all participants. There will be another announcement on how you can obtain your certificate. I think some of you already asked questions through chat. All right. Right now, I have a special announcement about the Adijita Infographic Design Contest. So I would like to ask Ms. Yvonne to what do we call, give us a little bit views of what is the Adijita Infographic Design Contest. So the Adijita Infographic Design Contest is a design contest activity held by the Gimscape Gimscape ID community together with Creative Commons Indonesia. So you need to see if you can find the Gimscape ID community. You can try to Google this community, right? And with the Creative Commons Indonesia. So this contest is part of the Adijita project series, which aims to promote open educational resources content during the contest. So the contest was in February 25th to April the 5th. 21 outstanding works were collected from 17 participants. So the contest participants not only designed, but also narrated the theme of open educational resources with their own characteristics. Participants' works can be accessed at, I think I can, oh, yes, one of our committee already put it up in our chat, so you can see the works of the participants. And also we have some best nominees, right? So I think we can just skip and then go to the nominees maybe. So you can see our nominees. If you go to the website, the nominees and then the winners will be announced later on, they say. Okay, maybe you can see the nominees, please.
Dan karya terbaik ketiga jatuh kepada karya peserta yang berjudul Sumber Pembelajaran Terbuka dan Ciri-Cirinya oleh Muhammad Dwi Haryanto. Untuk karya kedua jatuh kepada karya peserta yang berjudul SPT Apa Itu SPT oleh Afi Rofi. Dan yang terakhir yaitu yang rekan-rekan sekalian tunggu, juara pertama dengan karya yang berjudul Berkenalan dengan Sumber Pembelajaran Terbuka oleh Rian Wilmanda Januardi. Kami ucapkan selamat kepada para peserta yang beruntung. Untuk hadiahnya akan segera dihubungi oleh pihak panitia. Dan untuk yang belum beruntung, jangan berkecil hati. Mudah-mudahan lain waktu berkesempatan untuk menjadi pemenang berikutnya. Dan sebelum kami tutup, kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada para peserta yang sudah turut serta memeriahkan acara ini, juga kepada panitia baik dari Creative Commons ID, komunitas Gamescape ID, juga kepada para mitra yaitu Sepatu Fans, Tokofos, komunitas Linux Arc Surabaya, Indo Center, OpenSUSE ID, dan Business Geo Cloud yang turut mensupport acara ini. Akhir kata, kami undur diri, sampai ketemu lagi di event berikutnya.
Thank you. So for those who are the winners, congratulations one more time. So you can celebrate later on, yeah? Okay, before we go to our panelists, I would like to introduce them first, okay? So I have three panelists, not I, we actually. If it is I will be enjoying their presentation myself, right? So the first panelist, Dr. Wahyudi, is the director of SIMU Semolek. He obtained his doctoral degree in education from Curtin University of Technology, Australia, and his master's degree in education from State University of New York. He has been with SIMU for many years. I think Pak Wahyudi later on will tell us how many years, right? Before joining Semolek, he was the Deputy Director for Program and Development of SIMU Secretariat Bangkok, Thailand. And previously, he served as the Deputy Director for Program of SIMU Quality Improvement for Teachers and Education Personnel in Mathematics. And the city is my hometown, Yogyakarta. Then continued there as the head of center, right? He was also a research specialist in SIMU Riskam, Penang, Malaysia, and has been dedicating himself as a teacher since 1989. So you can see Pak Wahyudi over there, but can you wave to all of us? So the second panelist is Susanna Grimm. Susanna Grimm is a research associate at DIPF, Leibniz Institute for Educational Research and Educational Information. And she's responsible for the further operation of the Information Center OER, Open Educational Resources, at the German Education Server, Information Center for Education, IZB. She studied multilingual communication at the Cologne University of Applied Sciences and Sustainable Development Corporation at the TU Kaiserslautern. I'm sorry if my pronunciation is a bit wrong. I think my German was like when I was in high school, right? From 2007 to 2021, she worked as a research associate at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training involved in the development of the OER info portal as a transfer partner for the field of vocational training. So please welcome Ms. Susanna Grimm. Oh, there she's waving to us, right? Okay, the next one, Dr. Sandra Shun, is she's a senior researcher at Institute of Interactive Systems and Data Science at Graz University of Technology, project manager also at the Forum New Media in Teaching Austria, with the project Open Education Austria Advanced. And she's an adjunct professor of innovation in learning at the Universitas Negeri Malang. Oh, in Indonesia, Malang State University, Indonesia. So her working focus are digital innovation for learning and teaching, OER, and MOOCs. Okay, so I have introduced to all of you the panelists. Hi, Dr. Sandashian. She's waving to all of us. So I think the first panels will be Dr. Wahyudi. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, all participants, please welcome Dr. Wahyudi.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hugo Indratna, our wonderful moderator. Okay. Honorable speakers, Mas Hugo, partners and stakeholders, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good day, everyone. I'm very pleased to be invited to this webinar on exploring the potential of open educational resources, or OER, organized by cultural institutes in collaboration with Creative Commons Indonesia and our center Simon. We do appreciate this kind of invitations, and I'm very honored to present as one of the speakers in this event. Indeed, it is very important event for all education practitioners to know more about open educational resources. It has the potential to revolutionize education by making quality educational resources now widely available and accessible. To begin with, please, I would like to introduce a little bit very short about of myself and my organizations. Mas Teguh, thank you very much. I'm Wahyudi. I've been for a long time in a semi family. I started as the teachers. So just like back to my habitat, back to my niche about the education. So once teacher, you always be teachers, right? Talking about the Simulax, it is under space of CMU, based in Bangkok. CMU, we have 26 regional centers. We have 7 in Indonesia, and one of this is Simulax. We're focusing on open and distance learnings. So we work closely use industry about OER. Through this program and services, Simulax is assist the same member countries, ASEAN plus Timor-Leste, and to find alternative solutions to enhance the quality of its people through OER. So we develop various platforms to support the implementation of open distance learning in the Southeast Asian regions. And one of the platforms that I would like to present today in this webinar is called Sumber Belajar Simulax, or simply translated in English as Simulax Learning Resources. Well, for those who didn't listen to the video, because the video, clearly provide definition what is OER. So please allow me also to again restate both the definition of OER. According to the UNESCO, open educational resources are learnings, teaching, and research materials in any formats and any mediums that reside in the public domains or are under copyrights that have been released under an open license, which permits no-cost access, reuse, repurpose, adaptations, and redistributions by others. An open license refers to a license that respects the intellectual property rights of the copyright owners and grants permissions that grant the public the right to access, reuse, adapt, and redistribute educational material. The recommendation on OERs adopted by UNESCO General Conference at its 40th session on 25 November 2019, just before the pandemic, is the first international normative instruments to embrace the fact of openly licensed educational materials and technology in applications. Open educational resources are specifically defined as educational materials that are openly licensed, meaning that the copyright holders has given permissions with law for others to use, to adapt, and distribute the resources for free. So they are included in the OER categories. What are the benefits of using OER? So we need to restate the gains that next piece, I think. Next slide. The benefit of yes, thank you. So here we list at least 6 of the benefits for using OER. First, for collaboration and partnership. OER can be used to foster collaborations like us now and knowledge sharings among educators and learners worldwide. By sharing and building upon each other's works, the teacher, instructors, and learners can contribute to a global community of educational resources. Second, for knowledge sharings. Open educational resources can facilitate collaborations and knowledge sharings among educators and learners worldwide. Again, by sharing and building upon each other's works, we can contribute to a global community of educational resources and ideas so that we can improve, enhance our quality of education. Thirdly, it's very important, cost saving and efficiency. I remember when I was a student, it's very, very expensive to get, one textbook. Rather, we always, inherit from our brothers to get the book. But now, with the OERs, we can saving the cost and also be efficient in our learnings. One of the most significant benefits of the OER is that they are typically free to use, to adapt, and also to distribute. Meaning we can share with others, we can share our friends freely. This makes educational resources more accessible to wider range of learners, including those who cannot afford traditional textbooks, or course materials. Well, you may also ask, how about the device? The fourth one, the benefit of OER is quality improvements and standard linings. Now, many OERs are created and curated by experts in the fields and go through rigorous review processes to ensure the quality, accuracy, and relevance. So, in Bahasa Indonesia, the quality of OER is not kaleng-kaleng. This can result in high-quality educational resources that are on par with or even better than traditional textbooks and materials. The benefit number 5, support for independent learnings. With OERs, we can provide significant support for independent learners by offering high quality, customizable, and flexible educational resources that can be accessed from anywhere at any time. Can foster a sense of community and collaborations among independent learners by providing opportunities for them to connect and share with others. So I would like to share a little bit. I'm actually one of the independent learners because I graduated from Open University UT here in our compounds. And at times I learned by myself with limited printed textbooks. So I just want, I dream if I wish I can get back to my old time to learn using maybe travel to the future, yeah, using this. The next benefits is the communication and community engagements. So by using OERs, we can provide significant support for communication and community engagements in education by facilitating collaborations, localizations, with bags, open licenses, and community buildings. By leveraging the power of OERs, educators and learners can work together to create a more inclusive, participatory, and collaborative learning environments. Next, please. Here, the look of the interface of Simulek Sumber Belajar or as Simulek Education Resources. To visit, you may access the following links there. And I just browsed this one. We have a collection around 4,000 education resources, high quality. Because, our teams have reviewed and curated the material that we have. So I hope that after this webinar, maybe our superhero who participate, superhero mean our educators, our learners, who join these webinars, you can share, you can submit your any education research to us. Next, please. Yeah. No, my share with you the milestone of Simulek Sumber Belajar is start a long time ago, as I've Pengko. Yep. It was first initiated in 2017, referred to OER declarations, and under the guidance of our Ministry of Education and Culture, Indonesia. So it is official. So in cooperation with one of the units under the Ministry, Center for Data, or we call it Pusdati, Simulek shared information about the platforms to all main units of the Ministry. So all directorates, yeah, as instructed by the Secretary General in 2017, 2018. That time was Pak Bibi Iswadi, our superhero. The platform was also introduced to the Indonesian Distance Learning Network, or IBLN members, in 2018. And to fill in the contents, to put in the contents in the beginning of the stability, Simulek started to provide all Simulek's online training materials in OER formats. So whatever we have, we put in our Sumber Belajar and provide the platform to support the Directorate of Course and Training. And from 2018 to 2020, Simulek integrated OER contents to be used on the national MUC platform with the standard copyright attribute. The platform then known as rumahbelajar.id. Next, as you can see, these screens, these are the file format supported by Simulek Sumber Belajar. Any kind of format, as see the screens. All learning material content in this file format can be uploaded to our platforms. So with the increasing list of OER developers, we are seeing a development on the platform for the near futures. So we have a discussion with our IT experts, Mas Rizal. What is our roadmap, the current design for our Simulek Sumber Belajar from now until 5 years later, 2027. With what we have now with this OER platform, we in Simulek plan to implement future developments to empower, to strengthen the platforms so that this can be used widely, not only in Indonesia, but also beyond our regions. Let's see how it will work, and I'm looking for the magic. And I believe with the collaboration with the Institute, with the CCE, Common Creative Indonesia, we believe that we can move forward together. Okay. Users are the institution partners who are willing to contribute contents to our platforms. Our platforms. They will need to register and logins to be able to upload, to manage, to rate, and to report OERs. They will have to read, understand, and agree on the order guidelines by UNESCO, by CC license, and also by Simulek standard OERs. Then they will be able to upload their materials to the platforms. And that is the current situation, current conditions, where user will be fully responsible to validate the contents and their uploadings. I believe what is to take care to take preventive situation that all material uploaded in our OER is on high quality and also free of the misconduct, like there's a case that we need to take down some material because risk standard. For future development, Simulink will provide reviewer to validate the contents before allowing to be published in our platforms. When the contents are published, you all will be able to use and reuse them all in the platforms. Of course, for our education purposes. I think this is the flow, right, Mbak? No, I mean, because I think yes, this is the flow of Simulink belajar content planning in the recruiters. Okay, I think we done. Okay, next. Here is the standard format that I use in our Simulink sumber belajar. Users must provide the following information each time they want to upload the learning materials. Okay, as you see in the screens, a user can be self-registered under the educational institutions and approved by Simulink teams. After this, they have to provide a list of OER metadata to support future developments of recommended system and also optimize search engines. In this slide, you may see the preview of the form used by contributors to upload their contents. They need to fill it out based on the standard format of Simulink sumber belajar, which just I mentioned earlier in slides. So, dear participant, all superhero, if you want to contribute to the platforms, please follow these instructions. Send your email to us with the provided subject, description, and context as shown on the screens. For more information related to sumber belajar Simulink, you may also send email to this address. So we are looking forward, we humbly, lovely to receive your educational results to be updated in our sumber belajar. Well, with this, I would like to come to our presentations with a little bit of conclusions. We do believe that OER offer a world of opportunity, offer our world of opportunities for learners and educators around the globe. They can help reduce costs for students, for parents, of course, can promote innovation in teaching and learning because teacher can use, can collaborate, can exchange the knowledge, and also increase access to education for all. Simulink Extension Center will continue to promote the utilization of OER, of course, with collaboration with the CCI, with the institute, and other partners, to create a more equitable and sustainable future for educations. Thank you very much to the committee of the webinars. You are did a very wonderful, especially during this Ramadan. Okay. And so let's reinforce to build our work where education is accessible to everyone, everywhere. Thank you very much. Back to Mas Suku.
Thank you, Dr. Wahyudi. Wow, I was like, to be honest, Pak, I tried to, what do we call, not to listen to your explanation because I think I put myself like, I know. But then apparently, maybe all participants agree, like, I don't know. A lot of things that I got, but I'm not going to, what do you call, launch my questions now because we have questions and answer session later on. But definitely I have some questions later on. I hope participants also have questions like me. So thank you, Pak Dr. Wahyudi. So we will be going to the next panelist, Dr. Sandasyon. So I hope she's ready already. Oh, she's already smiling over there. She's ready. Okay, Dr. Sandasyon, please welcome Dr. Sandasyon.
Welcome to my presentation on OER in Austria, and selamat datang for doing that presentation as well. Yes, you can find my slides under the link in the chat or as well on that QR code so that you can follow or read later on if you are interested. In particular, I will now present the developments and experiences from the field of higher education in Austria. And Austria is a small European country where German is spoken. Only among almost 9 million people, so very few compared with Indonesia, live there. And very important, Austria is not Australia. So you eventually know already Sound of Music, which was filmed here. And yes, we do have snow in winter times. But why, and that is more important, why we do have OER in Austria as well. Very practically, teachers in Austria also want to use, modify, and adapt various resources. However, similar to Indonesia and a lot of other countries worldwide, copyright law sets strict limits here. So for us in Austria, open licenses open up the possibilities to work with educational resources the way we want to do that for good teaching. So all these three open licenses are the key opportunities that we work with. And the argument of good teaching is also the main justification for the use of OER in Austria. I add you here as well a source for that written in English that might be helpful to understand what was going on and developed in Austria so far. So what was done in Austria? It is probably noteworthy that the first European conference was on the topic of OER, took part already in 2007 in Salzburg, which is not very known in the international milestone history of OER, but that was practically the case. So concerning policies and its developments, I have some notes as well. In 2016, there was already a first white paper on OER. I shared that with you already by a working group on higher education, where OER was mentioned, and after that, OER was mentioned in several governmental documents. So where the government explained that OER might be helpful for higher education institutions. And luckily, last year, the national Austrian open science policy was adopted. And there, open educational resources plays a major role. Concerning infrastructures, first universities built their own OER repositories. And not unique in Austria, but that's the way we deal with it in Austria. We as well established a national repository, which collects and shows metadata from these OER repositories of the universities. Noteworthy as well is the expansion of the MOOC platform IMOX into a national platform. And this was also important for OER because all the materials used and shared at IMOX within the MOOCs is available under a Creative Commons license. Very unique in Austria is, we guess, the next one. Unique worldwide should be the OER certification for higher education institutions, which was introduced last year as well. The criteria for this certificate include the existence of an OER strategy, the existence of an own OER repository, and a certain number of qualified persons in each university. And of course, it's not a direct result of that certification, but a relevant process and coincidental process, I guess, we now can count several OER policies in Austria. So as you can see, 7 of about 76 universities in Austria already have their own OER policy. And additionally, we have so far already 71 OER practitioner, which is of course in a way ridiculous for Indonesia, but a good number for Austria, where we do have a same amount of universities, and we already just started now. Worth to mention is as well that in all performance agreements of universities, it is stated that OER is at least a minor issue for them. So in that contracts with the ministry, you will always find at least the mention of OER. And this is for each public university in Austria. One of the success stories might be as well how diverse and innovative the courses on iMOOCs, so the MOOCs on the iMOOCs platform, are used in different teaching contexts. If you're interested in that as well, I will as well share an article about that and what we did there, and found out how these MOOCs were used in from other colleagues from other universities, because they are available under an open license. And just a very small, but another success story are as well the dissemination of the OER canvases. And Susanne Grimm, who will be the presenter of the next presentation, is part of that success story as well, because it was first published at her platform. So you can see this original German version here, and it was translated in several others. And last year, again, we developed a new version, more concentrating on the development of small OER. And if you're interested in that, there are already some translations available. I show you the variant of Telugu, which is an Indian dialect I have learned. And of course, we are looking forward to get an Indonesian version, Bahasa version as well. So to sum up, we are in love with OER in Austria, but of course not all know that. And we are nevertheless at its beginning. So challenges are still there. And to highlight these challenges, they are especially that you address always copyright if you start to work with open educational resources or open license. And this is tricky. And of course, it's a little bit frustrating as well for the people involved. Current issues for us, and to give you some perspective as well, what our next steps might be or where we are interested in. 2 new perspectives on OER in Austria are monitoring of OER development. So who does what? And you have seen some of our figures already in my presentation. And we are, of course, interested to figure out if we really get the results that we address and want and expect of OER. So OER impact assessment is one of our current and future issues. So please find the references on my slides. I shared already the link with it, and please feel free to contact me if you have any further issues besides the Q&A sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra. Okay, I was looking at your presentations until, as a moderator, I forgot to remind Susanne, but hey, you are going to be the next one. Sorry, Susanne, but you are ready over there. So yeah, as a moderator, I always remind all participants to get ready with your questions, because I have a lot of questions, especially when Dr. Sandra already put into challenges. because I see when you are comparing Indonesia and Austria, but you also mentioned about what do we call the project that you did, and then like instantly in my mind, I'm thinking about the challenges and about the sustainability, of course, because OER is really an ongoing process, right? So, okay, this is getting more interesting, and I can see that some people already put questions in that questions chat. Just hang on. Okay, we have a question and answers later on. So I think after this, I will invite Susanna Grimm to come and present her presentations. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Please welcome Susanna Grimm.
Hello, everybody from Germany on a more or less sunny spring day. Hugo already introduced me. I am Susanne Grimm. I am a research associate at the DIPF. DIPF stands for Research and Information on Education. And at the DIPF, I am responsible for the further development of the information service OER. And I was asked to talk about the developments of OER in Germany and on challenges of promoting OER. In my presentation, I will concentrate on a timeline of activities for promoting OER and the challenges I kept for the discussion afterwards. So give me 1 second to share my screen. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to concentrate on a timeline of key activities promoting OER in Germany in my presentation. It was 2011, actually, when the debates about OER in Germany started, relatively late compared to the international movement. Initial trigger was a software program described as Schultrojaner. It was supposed to examine school computers for works protected by copyright. Shortly after that, the first white paper on OER for schools was published, followed by a white paper on OER in higher education and in further education. A white paper on OER in TVET is actually still missing. The very first OER camp, a get-together of practitioners, was held 2012 at the University of Bremen. I will come back to that format a little later on. In 2014, the concept of the Hamburg Open Online University was presented. The WHO, short for Hamburg Open Online University, is a platform which offers digital tools and courses based on OER, bundling activities of 6 Hamburg universities. And in the same year, the Alliance for Free Education, Bündnis Freie Bildung, was founded, initiated by Creative Commons Germany, the Open Knowledge Foundation Germany, and Wikimedia Germany. 1 year later, the Federal Ministry for Education and Research and the Standing Conference of the Ministers of Education and Culture Affairs of the states published a paper on OER recommending short and medium-term measures. And last but not least, a feasibility study on development and operation of OER infrastructures was published by the DIPF in 2016. It recommended connecting existing structures rather than building new ones. So all this preparatory work resulted in the first federal funding guideline, OER Info, which began end of 2016. In total, 24 publicly funded projects took up their work on OER at that time, raising awareness and training trainers for initially 18 to 24 months. The central project was the information service OER, called after the funding guideline OER Info. The information service OER started with 3 core partners, one of them the University Library Center with its OER world map. You most probably know about that project, and 4 transfer partners responsible for the respective educational sectors. Goal of the information service was to provide information on OER for everyone, including new target groups, making the topic more visible throughout the country, to present the current state of knowledge on OER and good practice examples, and to showcase the diversity of OER initiatives and to support their exchange. Beside the information service, 2 further network projects were funded. The already mentioned OER camp occurred during the funding guideline, during the funding phase, regularly 4 times a year, and Jointly for You, which provided a platform for gathering and showcasing the trainer material created in the further 21 projects of qualification and awareness raising. After the first 24 months, the information service OER and the 2 network projects, OER Camp and Jointly for OER, were funded for 2 more years. Now, the coronavirus was actually a further trigger for debates on the necessity of digital educational material and OER. In view of the short-term need for digital teaching material for schools, the federal and state governments have agreed to provide a media portal for freely accessible educational resources to promote the development of a statewide educational media infrastructure. The portal Mundo, realized by the Media Institute of the Federal States, is carried out on behalf of the 16 federal states and is financed with funds from the Digital Pact School. Also at the beginning of the coronavirus, the open education community joined forces to provide support to schools, students, and teachers as well. Editorial teams collect freely available educational content, making it available sorted by curricular topics and ensure the quality of the learning content. Wir lernen online, We Learn Online is both a search engine and a community for OER. It's a joint project by Wikimedia Germany and EduSharingNet. The before mentioned Alliance for Free Education is also involved. To support the universities in the creation of OER, the Ministry of Culture and Science of North Rhine-Westphalia, one of the 16 German states, together with the Digital University of North Rhine-Westphalia, set up the funding line OER Content NRW, with a funding total of up to 10.5 million euros. OER Content NRW is the largest nationwide funding line for open educational resources in Germany. ORCA NRW, ORCA stands for Open Resources Campus, the new state portal for study and teaching in the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia, has been online since 2021. Behind the platform stands a network of 37 universities throughout this state, which act as contacts for the platform. And again, OER Camp goes global. OER Camp Global in 2021 comprised 114 sessions from 186 speakers. There were 1,000 registrations, over 1,000 registrations from over 80 different countries, and the sessions and keynotes have been recorded and published on YouTube. And back to the higher ed sector, CNER was established in 2021. CNER stands for Cooperation Network OER Enabling Infrastructures and Services. The network describes itself as actively organizing the development of open educational opportunities as a common good in the German federal states, in a joint effort by its members from the various countries, from the various states. CNER is building up the OER network throughout Germany. So then in 2022, the OER community didn't have to wait. That was sorry. Then in July 2022, the OER community didn't have to wait any longer. Germany's OER strategy, promised in the coalition agreement of the acting government, published November 2021, was presented by the parliamentary state secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education and Research in a hybrid event to discuss said strategy with invited experts. The very experts who were involved in the participatory process of the development of the strategy. To develop its strategy, the Federal Ministry for Education and Research obtained input from around 80 experts in a two-stage process of written submissions and online discussions on 3 topics. The topics were people, technology, and society. In the subject area people, accessibility of educational processes and necessary competencies of teachers and learners were addressed. Technology referred to the infrastructure that should make OER widely available and usable in the long term. And under the topic society, the social theories associated with OER and how OER changes further discourses were discussed on. So the OER strategy has 3 action goals. First goal is to create and expand incentive systems for the creation and use of OER. The second goal is to strengthen a culture of openness, cooperation, and sharing. And the third goal is to strengthen a change management in educational institutions. With the OER strategy as a learning long-term strategy, the Federal Ministry for Education and Research wants to or wishes to develop answers to central questions of digital educational material and concepts with all stakeholders and give additional and sustainable impulses in digital education and for an overall changed teaching and learning culture. So it says in the strategy. Shortly after the presentation of the OER strategy, but actually 10 years after the first OER camp took place, the 35th OER camp took place October 2022 in Hamburg. It was understood as a kickoff for the new phase of OER funding in Germany. As usual, the OER camp enabled a learning and exchange for all areas of education and all areas of work, especially pedagogical, legal, organizational, and technical perspectives, and was suitable for both beginners and advanced. And on day 3, the OER strategy and the associated funding measures were in focus. The OER strategy was discussed in 6 groups according to the 6 action areas of the strategy, and questions worked on were how can the 6 fields of action be interpreted and filled with life? What have we achieved and what is needed next? What feedback would the OER community like to give the Federal Ministry of Education and Research on the implementation of the strategy? And last but not least, what ideas and plans do the actors have for future activities related to OER in Germany? And who is looking for cooperation and fellow campaigners for their own projects? So the results were documented, published, and are taken into account in the further development of OER promoting structures. And with the next slide, we actually reached the present. I am very happy to inform you that the information service OER will continue with a funding period of 5 years and a funding volume of around 1.9 million euros and an increase of 3.5 jobs. Our overall aim for the years to come is to further strengthen and expand the OER community by providing infrastructure for meta OER, community building, and further increasing the visibility of the topic. So regarding point 1, I am even happier to inform you that we are going to integrate the OER world map, which is unfortunately currently offline, back into our website. The OER world map needs to be brought up to date first, but hopefully we will go online again end of March 2024. So regarding the community building, we will first carry out a systematic mapping, which clusters the various communities from all areas of education. And based on the information from OER info and the OER world map, arrange them according to their OER activities. We will then, together with the stakeholders of the communities to be identified, find ways to involve the respective communities to raise awareness about the topic of OER and to train them in the sense of open educational practices. And regarding the third topic, we will, of course, continue our successful work on our blog, podcast, and social media to further showcase the diversity of OER initiatives in Germany and also abroad. So a last slide on the future to come. On behalf of the Federal Ministry for Education and Research, a new OER funding line was announced and will appear shortly. This funding line will be about strengthening and expanding communities interested in OER. The aim of the announcement is to bring together a wide variety of actors together to anchor the knowledge about OER more broadly in the educational landscape. And the new guideline will apply to all areas of education, as did the previous one from 2016. So that was me on the timeline of activities of promoting OER in Germany. Thanks for your attention, and I'm very eager to answer your questions afterwards.
Thank you very much. Wow. This is what we call the term mind-blowing, because like I don't really see OER maybe a couple of years ago, but the rapid changes, the passions, it's everywhere. So thank you, Sungrim. We will be going to the next session, which is question and answers. I know that some of you are participants, you are not really, you cannot hold to ask questions. You can put your questions in the chat, or you can also I don't know whether the participants can unmute themselves. I don't think so, yeah. So you can put in the chat. All right. Okay. We are going to wait for you in a minute because actually I have one questions already submitted to me. Somebody like mentioned it before. Maybe while waiting for other people to ask, I will read the questions from one of the participants that sent. For Dr. Wahyudi first. In one of your slides, you mentioned about how people in Siamolek verify the content because people like submitting, right? And then you and your organization verify the content. Now, how do you and your organization organize that? Okay, Dr. Wahyudi.
Yeah, Mas Teguh. So once again, that reviewing some of the contents, either in the format or the content itself, is very important to ensure that the educational resources update is high quality, right? Okay. So talking about how we do a review, how we do check and approve that material to be uploaded. So we set up a panel. So say maybe I'm the last one to approve. Okay. Because we believe that our partners, and they are very credible also, like the official our sister center also. So normally when we receive the material, the OERs, we found this very easygoing. Good quality according to our formats, then we publish. So if we receive a new ones, a new say from our participant, they send to us. So we will go through. First checks what is the topics, and then the contents. If we don't have the experts, we will reach our partners. So again, collaboration is very important. Yeah.
Wow.
No, we're talking about money because once we collaborate, money is nothing beyond this, like the prices.
Thank you.
And
yeah.
Actually, there's another question from our partner as well.
Yes.
Because she or he referred to the case when somehow the OER they uploaded is like very sensitive. For example, using the gender or religion issue, so it's going up, and then finally the material must be taken down. But the taking down, but why we cannot filter that? So this is the importance of having the reviews before uploading our OER.
Thank you, Dr. Wahyudi. I have questions actually for all panelists. Like each of you will be answering this. Like let's give like 5 minutes of 2 or 3 minutes, right? 2 or 3 minutes for answering this. But I have a questions that I will be making it into one questions because these two from Lani and from Raymond, they have 2 questions that actually I can sum up them in Indonesian language, but I translate it. So the question is, bagaimana cara panelis mengenalkan OER pada pendidik di masing-masing negaranya, terutama mengenai hak cipta dan lisensi terbuka. Kemudian pertanyaannya, apa tantangan yang dihadapi untuk mengenalkan OER di Jerman? Okay, so I will sum up. The question is, so how do you guys introduce OER to educators in your countries? That's the what do you call it, the base one, to introduce the OER to your educators, and of course the challenges about the copyright and open license. And then there's one question from Raymond, especially in German. So I think it is not only in German, but in Austria and in Indonesia as well, right? So maybe we can start from Susanna. Susanna, maybe can you start?
Okay, so in our workshops and sessions about OER in Germany, I always try to meet the needs of the participants, and the needs are the questions they have are similar in any education sector, actually, if it's higher ed or school ed or TVET. So the questions are, where can I find subject-specific OER? Teachers are always searching for additional material for their teachings. And the second question would be, how do I create OER? And when creating OER, you will always have the need you have legal questions you want to be asked and answered. And in particular, there are questions about copyright, like what is an edit? Or questions about licensing, like where does commercial use begin? And since I can't and wouldn't want to give legal advice, we have a standing cooperation with iRights for this kind of questions. They published very interesting publications on this certain questions. And what I do is I introduce the licenses, and the licenses by itself are simple if you take the time to get to know them. So and next question would be when I produced my work and I want to publish it, where do I provide my OER for the best possible dissemination? So we always try to answer these basic questions in our workshops to introduce the topic.
Okay, oh, that's really clear and really straightforward. Thank you. Dr. Sandra?
Yes, some years ago, so when we started to have the first workshops on OER, we didn't really had a single license. So Creative Commons was already invented, but not very common. The use, so that was a lot more complicated. And then we typically start with the idea to bring education to all people worldwide. But that completely changed, at least in my personal workshops, because everyone can do it in another way. But what I showed you today is practically the same start that I do within my workshops. So I typically start that with these duties of a typical teachers that my participants want to use existing materials to modify, readjust, and create something new out of it. And then I clarify what they are really allowed to. And besides citation, which is only limited to higher education and research work, it's not a lot of possibilities to do. And then I started to address, since 2 years or so, additionally, that it's not only about our own copyright issues in Austria, which are different, for example, with the copyright in Germany or Switzerland or in any other countries worldwide. I address as well this issue that if, for example, the European Commission fund a certain project, they cannot be aware that the same resource can be used in the same way under the certain and different copyrights. And I do show then an example where I say, okay, is it allowed to show an online video in a country in a typical classroom setting? And surprisingly, this is not the case in all European countries. And this is then a good base, at least from my perspective, in the higher education context, that they understand if they want to do something, especially in European project and context, that they have to reassure that it can be used in the way that it should be. And open license are the best base for that. And as Susanne then told, I do not concentrate on what is legally possible or not in Austria and Germany, because that is very complicated. I then say, okay, I don't want to talk anymore about the problems. I will go on with the solution, and open license and OER is the solution for these weird circumstances we currently see worldwide.
Wow, That's really what we call rich answers, and then you are doing it practically because you see it in your own country, but not only in your own perspective, in your own country's perspective, but also from other perspective, other countries. Dr. Wayudi, do you want to add?
Okay, Mr. Thanks. I agree with the Susan and okay. I'm not on the license, but I recall my experiences on doing the ethic of research, super similar. So we have to be very, very true. Thanks, Sandra, for recall me in that experiences. Talking about how we introduce the OER into our stakeholder, very interesting because we are very lucky. We have our 26 center in the regions, and also when the WC Molek also again very lucky. We have very big umbrella because we cover from A to Z from any subjects. So and thanks to CCI, Common Creative Indonesia, we just send our MOU so we can promote widely and massively to our teacher, educator, and learners. For the issue, I think Sandra and Susan already mentioned this, and I'm not the lawyer as well.
Okay.
I'm the teacher every.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's a question that you can also read over there from Adi. He is giving us a lot of what do we call description. What would be the recommended approach for producing new open educational resources materials? And then he has his options right on his end. Establishing a commission similar to option number, but relying solely on unpaid volunteer contributors, making existing but closed learning materials more open potentially through negotiation with the copyright holder. And then he's asking your opinions. Which of these methods has proven to be the most effective based on your experience? Again, I will open this whether Sandra, Susanna, or Pak Wahyudi will answer this. I think Adi is more into this is more into what do we call copyright, things like that, yeah?
No, may I answer first?
Yes, please.
Well, this kind of approach for producing new open OERs materials must be referring to study commission to create new learning material with an open license. Okay, but complicated. Similar to one, but unpaid volunteer contributor. How can I say? Again, Mas Adi, I'm a teacher, so I'm not saying that I don't need money because I just see now everything can be monetized, right? Even from the open evidences can be monetized by others. So Mas Adi, you come with a very good questions, but for me, I'm not answering your question, but from my spirit as teachers, from the bottom of my heart, educators should create the alliance to provide good quality for free. Actually, I just want to say, do it with love. That's the key. I don't know, Mas, if you know, my statement even make the Mas Adi confused, but Mas Adi, everything that with love will be so everything. Okay. Number one can be done visible, yeah, but with efforts. Number two, how to find the unpaid volunteer contributors. Okay. Sometimes when we find, my works open license, pretty used, and then somebody else use and make money from the ones. You can have the feeling that much, okay? Good if money go back to the education. If not, all right. So just my personal opinions. I'm maybe not answer exactly what Mas Adi said, but my message is, we as teacher educators, please do it love, and we can work together to provide this quality.
Okay. So thank you, Wayudi. Sandra and Susanna, do you want to add?
Should I start, Susanna? Is it okay? Okay. So number 3 was making existing closed learning materials more open. And practically, I can only answer that from my Austrian perspective. That doesn't work at all, but it might be related to our copyright issues, where you always have to ask every single people who might be part of that new thing that was developed. So if it's a book, of course, it's firstly the author, but there might be an illustrator, there might be some other copyright holders as well, which is very complicated. So we have learned at building at our experience that is not really feasible to do that. So there were high expectations for doing that, and they weren't successful at all. So we more or less start from the scratch if you want to start OER projects or doing OER. And then I'm between 1 and 2. The first option was that ADI proposed a commission to create new learning materials with an open license. So I'm not sure about the commission because, but very practically, developing OER is a professional job, and we are all professionals, and education have to be paid. Educators have to be paid. So this is the same for OER. But of course, OER is such a cool thing that you might find supporter volunteers like at Wikipedia itself, and Indonesia is so big. So I would expect there might be other teachers who just fell in love to do OER, use them and republish. That option 2 is of course a good thing. But I think very practically, it's always good to consider that a professional worker as a whatever key supporter of a certain OER initiative should be paid, and then you should always consider how to arrange that project that others can contribute, because that will be the case if it's a sensible, nice OER project, because this is part of OER. I hope that answers your question. So, but I'm not sure if number 3 might be something for the Indonesian context, because I'm not sure about your copyright and legislation here. But it's not for Austria.
Yeah. That's interesting because you mentioned about like the volunteers. Volunteers doesn't mean that you just do whatever work, because you have to be professional. I think I underlined that, right? Okay. Susanna, do you want to add?
Yeah, maybe when I look at schools, the creation of teaching and learning materials is part of everyday teacher's daily life. So why not share them not only with the colleagues but with the world? Since everybody is using materials from the internet, why not share your material through the internet with the world? There needs to be certain incentives for the people who produce this material. Teachers, the scarcest resource of teachers is time. So if they get the time to prepare this material in the sense of OER, which needs a little bit more time as well, not only producing material, but producing it to be able to spread it as OER. Ultimately, actually, I think that funding helps a lot. There are a lot of programs on federal and state level producing material, teaching, learning, research material for the different sectors. And if as a like obligation to spread this material, which is produced with open funds to spread them openly, helps a lot, actually.
Yay. Yeah. That's really like kind of like giving the link. So Adi, you might be hearing that, of course, there must be like work behind the scene, that we are talking about a lot of works, a lot of collaboration that people have to do with this kind of options, even, right? Even with the funding, so people can, the professional can really work properly. Okay, we will move to the next questions actually. Oh, I have an intermezzo. Maybe Sandra and Susanna, maybe you heard Pak Wahyudi always say "mas" to me. Hugo, mas, 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 mas is like in Japan, in the country, for example, Hiroki-san, something like that. It's like a brother, something like that. Okay, okay. So there's a questions here. This is a bit like pride of being Indonesia. If you have patent in our in our country, is it also acceptable and available on other countries like Germany and Austria? So you register your patent, and then like is it also available, acceptable in other countries? And then there's another question also. Is there any open educational resources in your country that is talking about Indonesia, something like that? Really pride of the country, right? Okay, maybe who wants to answer first?
I can start eventually with the
All
last
right.
one.
Yep.
So because I checked that, because when I start to be a professor in Indonesia, of course I would like I wanted to learn some words and something more about OER, not about Indonesia, not OER. So of course I started to look for OER, but I couldn't find something in 2020 as OER for German-speaking people who wants to learn Indonesia. So there might be something in for you if you're interested to develop something for us, like Susanne and me and all others coming from Germany to Indonesia. That might be, of course, fun. But it's the same in the other direction. So there is not, there is, of course, OER about learning German, but there's nothing available, for example, like learning German from an Indonesian background there, because I think there might be some certain issues like learning the language itself and the letters, and as well about the country or the countries, because we have not only Germany, as you have learned today eventually. Yes, there are many open things to do, and OER might be a good way to deal with that as well. And concerning the first questions, I'm not a copyright expert, so I'm not a patent expert as well. We do have the international patent registration, or at least the European in Germany, in Munich, I guess. But I'm not aware how this is related. If it's an Indonesian patent, if that is still an international one, I just do not know. Sorry. But Susanne, eventually you have some experiences on that.
No, I'm very sorry. Also the first question I couldn't possibly answer. I know that there is a lot of material about learning German as a foreign language, but I would say I'm quite sure that there's some material about your language on the various repositories for universities and schools we have in Germany. I mentioned only a few of them. We have so many repositories in Germany for higher ed, and I'm sure there is to be found something, and if not, please create something and give it to our repositories.
That's a good challenge for all participants here, right? Okay. I think before we still have 5 minutes, I have a questions actually for all of you, because this is, you have to answer, because this is kind of like, we talk about OER, we talk about sustainability. Now, this is not the question from the participants, but the question from me, because looking at your presentations, I wonder what do you think? Yeah? How do students, in this case, maybe university students as the young generations, see OER in your countries? Like, we are talking about sustainability. What is the movement that you see? Okay, who's going to start first?
I want to start first on
All
this
right.
question, please.
Please.
So it's a very interesting question you ask, and I always take the position that the ultimate users of this material we're talking about, the students, are always forgotten in this process, and we're talking about the promises of OER, the challenges of OER for teachers, but never for students. But there are some very interesting projects in Germany to involve the students in the production of OER, which can then be further used by their peers or the students to come in the next years. So that's a blind spot, actually, and unfortunately, because I think there's a lot of potential in that question, but the question I can't answer because we're not in contact with the students, we're in contact with teachers, and the teachers are producing the material, and sometimes they involve the students, but those projects are very rare, actually.
Thank you. Sandra, Dr. Wayudi, do you want to add?
Yeah, of course, I would like to add as well. So I work at TU Graz, so which is a university in the southern part of Austria, and we do have signed or declared at my rector, not me personally, of course, that we want to be the first climate neutral university in Austria 2 years ago already. And of course, the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations are the base for that. And if you go on the website of my university and look for our repository, you will find the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you click, for example, on number 4, this is education and quality in education, you will find all our work and publications on OER, because we directly relate and see OER as not the only, but a key measure for working in the field of quality in education, at least. And this is not only at TU Graz, this is, I think, for many. And if you look on the projects working in the field of, working on the better future anywhere, the people there as persons are always highly connected to the OER development. So this is like open source developers are more motivated to go on with open content in the field of sustainability. I see the same, but practically for us in Austria, OER is officially connected to sustainability goal number 4. Because of course, very practical issues like that school is affordable, for example, is not a thing in Austria, because all these basic issues are more or less fulfilled. Then we can go on the eventually more elaborated goals compared to other countries, but this is just the case.
Thank you. That's really giving an insight for us. Dr. Wayudi, do you want to add?
Yes, thank you, Mas brother. So talking about similar like Susan, actually everyone is a student, no matter what, because we are a lot of lying learner. Okay, so mostly our participants is teachers, educators, lecturers, and so on. And I think actually we already implemented whatever we done is OER. So during our courses, we based on the performance. For example, we ask our students, the teacher, the lecturers, to create like AR, VR for education. So the products must be open for everyone. So I hope this answered your question, Mas Ugo. This is our spirits, yeah. So we share and we participate.
Thank you. Now, this is not the questions, but this is really, really things that I always ask to all panelists in whatever webinar that I become moderators. What is your message in terms of open educational resources to all participants, to the whole world? What will be Sandra Shun's messages? What will be Susanna Grimm messages? What will be Dr. Wahyudi's messages for the world, for open educational resources matters? Please.
This is very hard question, Mr.
What will be your
So-
message for all the world for this?
I think we work together toward the SDG number 4 for inclusive quality education for everyone, right? So we need to unlock that way through OER. I believe by providing quality OERs for everyone, regardless the geographic conditions, family backgrounds, we can help our students to get the high quality education for them. So unlocking with love is my mission.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, Susanna or Sandra?
And then I go on. Don't consider too much about it. Just start it and do some OER, publish it, and you will see it doesn't really make something worse. So it's just fun, and somebody will be happy about that and enjoy.
Thank you.
And my words would be, in few words, share your knowledge, share your work, so education becomes open to everybody.
Thank you. The messages are really powerful because I know that people would like to see how everybody in the world have the same opportunity. I think everybody is try to, what do we call it, fight for that. And then we would like to have education is the first thing to shape the human being, right? So everybody is like doing the same thing. Okay, thank you for all panelists and participants also, but this is not yet over because I would like to invite our friends from Siamolek, of course, to obtain to announce how we as participants obtain our certificate. Okay, Busani, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Hugo, for inviting me to inform to the participants how to claim your e-certificate. I hope my screen shown well to your screen.
Yeah, it's clear.
So this is how to claim your e-certificate. Please make sure you already create an account at etraining.simolec.org. And after that, you have to activate your account via email. And then you have to go to following link, this one. Yeah, this one, bit.ly/rec_OER. Yeah. After, so we have 3 steps. The first one, you have to create an account in etraining.simolec.org and then activate your account and then go back to the link, to the registration link to enroll to this webinar. And then the link, or you have to register yourself or to enroll yourself no longer than April 13, 2023. And then for the certificate, you can also download from your eTrain account on April 14, 2023. I hope you can screen capture this screen so you have a note for yourself when you have to register and then when you can claim your e-certificate. Thank you very much for joining us, and I give back to Paul.
Thank you, Busani. Yes, to all participants, you need to take a time to, if you haven't screenshot it, maybe you can ask later on to the committee. Oh, Busani is beam it up one more time. So please do screenshot, and then you will be able to claim your e-certificate, because I know that some of you are having a certificate to be like not memorabilia, but to make sure that you have learned something, right? Because some people thinking, oh, just collecting certificates. No, please don't. Okay. So, yeah. Is there any announcement from the committee? So if there's no announcement, I hope you enjoy the panels today. And then don't forget, for those who are the winners for the, what we call, the Adicita Infographic Design Contest, celebrate with your friends. For those who want to see, you can see on the chat and then click the link to the Lumbung Gimscape. Gimscape ID is full of youngsters. I met them and I was really surprised. I thought that I'm still young, but I'm actually quite old. I know. Dr. Wayudi, you have your gray hair, but I don't have hair, but believe me, I'm old. So I will leave you guys with the message that I actually borrow from all the panelists. So when you share, when you would like to share, you don't need to share only possessions, only items, but you can share your thoughts, your ideas, your experiences, make it into an open educational resources. I believe that is a future for our educations where everybody get the same opportunity. So I'm Hugo Indratno from Tangerang. Tangerang is outside Jakarta a little bit. Thank you very much for Pak Wayudi, for Sandra, for Susanna. Thank you from Austria, from Germany, from Indonesia, coming to share with us. I'm Hugo Indratno. Good afternoon from Indonesia. And is it good morning to you guys in Austria and Germany? Almost afternoon, maybe.
Midday. So
Midday.
it's for lunch now.
Okay. Okay. Enjoy your lunch. And for Indonesian here, those who are fasting, enjoy 1 or 2 hours more. You will be having your break fasting, right? Thank you very much. See you in another webinar. Bye-bye.